something quite different today. We're going to take you back to the early 1990s when I was looking after a gang of heavy horses. Most of the heavy horses had a health problem of some sort or other, which is the reason why they were in our care. This is a story that at the moment is one of the top stories we have on our Buzzsprout site, where you can click on and look up an audio story and download it to your phone or whatever and listen to it where you like. There's over 200 stories there, all sorts of different subjects. A lot of them I've made into videos, like we're going to see with this one. Now this one at the moment is every month when Buzzsprout give me the breakdown of what people are listening to, this is the top story. So for some reason or other, folks find it intriguing. So it's only a short story, but it's about one particular horse and his particular health problem and how we overcame it. It's quite remarkable in its own way, so I hope you enjoy it. Okay, this next story is called A Problem with Bonnie. It's taken from It's a Rum Life Book 4, Volume 1, Northcote 1984 to 1998. No sooner had we coped with the huge problem of a Goliath and his toppling over if he turned round too quickly or got himself in an awkward position by building his own personal crane, then we realised that Bonnie was also suffering, but from a quite different problem. This old chap had worked for Whitbread's Brewery in the centre of London for most of his life. You may recall from the Collecting Goliath story that Goliath and Bonnie had met on the same farm in Kent, where Goliath had initially retired. Bonnie, whose real name was Tide, was a very large grey Shire horse. He was far wider than Goliath and quite probably far heavier. His legs were shorter and thicker, but his nature was equally gentle. They were inseparable. Bonnie was having difficulty with his breathing. After moving only a few paces across the large open shed that they lived in, he seemed totally out of breath. Julian, his vet, was called in to see what was wrong and prescribed Ventolin, a very strong and quick-acting stimulant to the respiratory system. Humans who suffer from asthma use an inhaler with just the same medication. This treatment worked well and gave the old horse great relief, but it was very expensive. Treatment for 1 week for a horse of his size was just over £70, even in the 1990s. If we were to continue to help him, something cheaper had to be found. Julian decided to use prednisolone, a cortisone treatment generally used for many different health problems and not just in animals. It was much cheaper, but would it work? He contacted a drug supplier and they told him what was needed for an animal the size of Bonnie. How many tablets? We needed to give him over 360 5mg tablets a day for the initial 2 weeks. How many tablets was my initial reaction? Julian explained his reaction was just the same. We thought the old horse would burst, but the drug suppliers assured us that this was what was necessary. I bought a tablet counter, just the same as chemists use, and had to watch the old chap like a hawk as he munched his breakfast. Initially, tablets were sprayed everywhere. As he lifted his mouth and looked around, they just flew in all directions. I had to devise some way of keeping them together. Molasses was ideal, but bad for his teeth. At his age, we then thought, as he was likely on borrowed time anyway, his teeth would not come to much harm. Molasses won the day. Just a little, mixed with his breakfast, and easily gluing the tablets together. After a week or so, the difference in the old horse was dramatic. He could move around without distress and became a far happier animal. After 2 weeks, we could begin to reduce the dose gradually and find a safe level. Just the right number of tablets that could maintain this good quality of life. We settled on about 150 a day and then asked if it could be possible to produce it in powder form to supply to simplify introducing the drug into his food. Very kindly the drug company obliged and supplied us with large pots of powder for about £1 in weight. They also worked out the dose for us in scoop form. The cost. Big Bonnie was all fixed up. During this time we had a good contact in the pharmacy of the local general hospital at Boston. Patients who had been prescribed products for their health but no longer needed them were asked to donate them to us for use on the horses. Nothing serious like dangerous drugs, just simple things like wound dressings and pots of E45 cream and such like. We happened to ask the pharmacy how much it would cost us to buy prednisolone on the National Health Service, and found to our surprise that with the 2 big horses and 1 pony using the drug now, we were using more prednisolone than the whole of the local general hospital. Thanks to Julian, we were also buying it cheaper. Big Bonnie coped well on his treatment for more than a year. Then one morning I found him in great distress. He was lying on a straw bed, most unusual for him, as he was almost always on his feet. He seemed to tell me he was in trouble and wanted to try and get up, but his back legs would not work. I got the golly lifter and Julie hitched him up. Gently I tried to help him to get up, but it was not to be, and with a shudder he just collapsed and died. He would have appeared to have had a stroke during the early morning, and which had disabled him, and managed to wait until I arrived at breakfast time before finally giving in to the problem. I covered old Bonnie with a canvas sheet and explained to Goliath what had happened. It was about 6:30 a.m. There was just Bonnie's nose peeping out from under the sheet, and Goliath stood for some time nuzzling his friend as if just saying his goodbyes. There we are, that's the end of that little story, brought to you by Cracker Books, written and read by Keith Sanders. Now that's the end of that little story. Don't forget, if you like the story, then please give us a like, and if you even think about subscribing to the channel, that helps us an awful lot. It doesn't cost anything, helps to grow the channel, which is important, helps us to produce more videos. So if you like it, please give us a like, think about subscribing, and then also at the end we've got our website address, so you can find the Buzzsprout link, or you can download a book to read, or whatever takes your fancy. There's hours of entertainment, it's all free. So thank you for being with us today, and until the next time, cheerio.